Hey, and welcome back to another Learning Java 2D game programming video. So in our last video, we implemented unwalkable tiles. And we also made a tool so that we can change whether a tile is walkable or not. As you can see, the green overlay is where you can walk, and the red overlay is where you cannot. And it looks purple because the color behind this is blue, of course. And let's just try this. So if you wanted to, you could have secret pathways over tiles that don't look walkable. I'm just gonna go back. And as you can see here, this actually stayed with the unwalkable tiles rendering on. So let's just quickly fix that. But as you can see here, the walkability is absolutely working. I'm just going to make sure that when you walk or when you change into the menu state or the game state, let's get render settings, get tile walkability, and set value to false. So it gets a default value, and let's also do that with the collision box. So I'm just going to copy these over and do the same when we initialize the game state. Gonna set these values to false, so it doesn't matter if it's on when you come from the editor. So now we can test it out. We put this on. I'm gonna take those back. Sorry, we had those on. Let's go to the main menu, and it turns it off. All right, so we fixed that. So in this video, we weren't quite entirely done, so we're gonna do a couple more things. As you can see here, we need to change the offset of our humanoids because the ring is no longer centered, which it was before, but we changed the ring to match our editor objects. So we're gonna make sure that they don't spawn on unwalkable tiles. Also, you can see that I've added quite a few assets. I have these lampposts, you saw them before. I've added a bench and a garbage can and what is at least supposed to be a willow tree, and we'll get to that. So let's get started. Of course, the most interesting thing is making sure that they don't spawn on unwalkable tiles. So let's do that first. I'm gonna head over to our game map, and here you can see get random position. I'm gonna change the name of that to get random available position, just so that you really convey to anyone else reading this that it doesn't just get any position. You need that position to be available. All right. So here we have an X and a Y on our screen or on our map that is completely random. So let's check if they are available or not. So first I'm just gonna get the grid X out of that. So that would be X divided by the game sprite size. And then let's do the same for the Y. And this is complaining because these aren't gonna return int, so let's just cast it. There we go. Now we have which grid that is. So let's check if the tile of these coordinates is not walkable, or if the tile has unwalkable scenery. And we're going to create that method. So if any of these are true, we don't want it to spawn on a tree or something like that either. So if we can't walk on the tile, or if there is something on the tile which is also blocking us, then I'm gonna say return get random available position. So then we are just asking this again, and we are gonna get new values. And then we'll check, are those values okay? And if they're not, we're just doing it again until we get a value that is okay, and then it'll just be sent up. And so let's generate this. Tile has unwalkable scenery. And first, let's get the collision box for our grid. I'm going to say get grid collision box of grid X and grid Y. And then we can return scenery list dot for each. Actually, let's do this. Dot stream any match. So if any of the sceneries in the list matches scenery get collision box collides with grid collision box. So there is something that's colliding with our grid. But also we need to filter out the scenery that is not walkable. So I'm going to say scenery is walkable. Actually, we don't. Oh, you can't do that as a method reference. All right, fine. Scenery. We want all the scenery that isn't walkable. All right. There we go. Now this should work, and hopefully if we just play, we won't find any of our NPCs spawning in the water. So hooray for that. Awesome. Now I want to make some other small changes. So the first thing is, I'm gonna start that again. I'm gonna head over to the editor. I don't really like how this is looking. And as you can see, this is now grayscaled, even though in the video before it had color. I just felt like we are going with this grayscale, so I felt we should continue. I'm just gonna keep going with that. But what I'm going to do instead is, I don't want it to grow like this and be on its own row. And I mean, this component is already taking up a lot of width, so I want to put this next to the auto tile. The problem then is, this and that, they don't belong together. They have nothing to do with each other, right? So I'm going to make a small UI component that is a divider. So it's just so that logically you can feel like these aren't actually, they don't belong to each other, but they are laid out close to each other. So, all right, you'll see what I mean. We're just going to make a small divider. It's just going to add some spacing, and it's going to be, yeah. So I'm going to pop over to the UI package, and I'm going to create a new class first. I'm going to call this a UI horizontal divider. And this will be a UI component. So just implement those methods. And let's store the sprite in here. So I'm just going to private image sprite. And then I'll insert. I'm going to make a constructor, but I'm not going to take the sprite in. We're going to generate it. So first let's set a size, and I'm going to make that a new size of 2 pixels in width and 24 in height. And then I'm going to make sure that the padding is none, but the margin is 16 horizontally and 0 vertically. And then let's generate the sprite. Whoop. Create method, of course, that's what we wanted. All right, so we're doing the thing that we do. So sprite is equal to image utils create compatible image of the size, and I'm gonna say opaque. And let's get the graphics out so we can draw to that. Here we go. Then let's set a color. I'm just going to go with color gray for now. And let's fill that rect from 0, 0 to size get width and size get height. And then let's dispose of the graphics. All right. I think that that's it for this very simple UI component. So all that it is going to do is just be a visual divider. So 2 width, 24 height, and then it's going to add some margin on both the left and the right. All right. Popping out of there, let's go to the UI tile menu where we're going to use this. So that's state, editor, UI tile menu. So I'm going to put the auto tile and the UI tool toggle in this. It's going to be a horizontal container. So I'm going to make something called, here, add UI component, and then get tool container, maybe? I'm not entirely sure. We'll see. I think this is going to take the sprite library, because this uses the sprite library, and both of these uses the game settings. So let's also pass in the game settings. Create that method. And I'm going to move both of these. So they're going to be inside of this component. So first, let's create that container where we're going to put them. Tools container, new horizontal container. I'm just going to say size here, which is the size that belongs to this container. Doesn't matter. And then I'm going to add both of these to the tools container. And in between, I'm going to add one of these dividers that we made. So add UI components, new UI horizontal divider. All right, and we're also gonna need to set padding and margin. And I'm gonna also want this to center its children. So I'm gonna set center children to true. I'm just gonna create some space there. Set padding, and I think we don't want any padding, but we want some margin on top, but not on the other directions. So then let's just return that to this container. And I think that's good. So let's just check that out. All right, didn't quite work. So there should be something there. So I'm just gonna check on that UI component. Did I not return the sprite? No. All right. So in the UI horizontal divider, we of course return the sprite in the getSprite method. So let's look at that again. All right, so this is a little more what I want. So it's just something that says that on this side is something, on this side is something else. They don't really have anything to do with each other, but they are on the same row. So I also like, just like all of these components, they give you some sort of cue. They tell you when you're hovering, but our tool toggle does not. None of these do. So we're just gonna do the same that we're doing here. We're gonna create some sort of brighter overlay when you are hovering. So pop over to your tool toggle class. And here in the getSprite, we say if it's active, return active sprite, or else return image getSprite. And I'm gonna do it like this instead. So if active, then return active sprite. But if it's not active, so now we are in the place where it isn't active, I'm gonna say if not has focus, then we are just returning the image.getSprite like before. But if, no, this should always be, of course, the default. I don't like it quite like that. So instead, if we have focus, we're gonna create the focus image in here, and we could of course cache it as well, but considering that only one tool toggle can have this at a time, I don't think we will cache it, but we will create it for every render instead anyway. All right, so you've done this before. I'm gonna say image with focus is equal to new, actually image utils, create compatible image of the image.getSize, and it can be opaque. Let's get the graphics out. Let's set the color to a white color with some low alpha. And then let's just fill a rect. We have the size, right? There we go. And then in this case, we of course first want to dispose of that and then return this image with focus. All right. Let's just try that out, see what that looks like. All right, it didn't quite work because I forgot to draw the original sprite on there. That's quite important. So first let's draw image, and we have the image get sprite start at 0, 0, and null for the observer. All right, let's try that again. There we go. Now that's much better. So it's quite subtle. If it's already quite light, then it is subtle, but at least there is something. So you can see what are you hovering right now, right? And you can see, so that's active, and these are the ones we're hovering. So, and since all of these are tool toggles, it works for everything. So I'm quite happy about that. All right, moving on. I'm going to show you something that we need to fix. So now, if we find someone, everyone was really far away, and we... oh, Jesus, this is going to take forever. Do I have someone closer? Yes. So, as you can see, he is stuck there, and that's because we are stopping movement in the moving entity, which isn't, of course, what we want. So we are gonna fix that. Just gonna see how much time I've used. All right. If we pop over to, let's see, where do we want to go? This moving entity. So we want to make this work like we are doing the other collisions, so that implementing classes can handle on their own what they want to do. So I'm going to change the name of this to handle collisions, just like we have handle collisions here, handle tile collisions. And then we're going to get all of the unwalkable tile boxes here, and then for each, instead of doing this motion stop, which we'll do somewhere else, I'm going to do this dot handle method reference handle tile collision without the s, and then I'm going to create that method inside of this moving entity, but we don't want the implementation. We want a protected abstract void. All right, now we can instead implement this in our deriving classes. So I'm actually going to put this inside of the humanoid, should I? No. So as you can see here, this is actually just something that we forgot in the humanoid refactor class. The humanoid should of course be abstract. We never want to instantiate a class of this humanoid. But I did put this handle tile collisions in here because none of our humanoids are going to be able to fly in this game, so we can put it here. So I'm going to do the thing that we did before. I'm going to say motion.stop, and we have this collision box. Maybe we want to name it tile collision box. So it's called tile collision, so I think that's a given. I don't think we need to. But great, so this means that now our bubble, we need to also implement the method here, but I'm gonna say nothing, which means that the bubble should be able to fly like it always did. I need some water closer. So we're gonna see if she flies or he flies over this pond now. And he does. So yay for that. Alright. Now let's go over to the UI scenery menu and add all the things that you can place. So that would be the editor state UI scenery menu, and here you have the pine tree. So I'm just gonna copy this over, paste it in, and I'm gonna say willow, and here this is the same size. So first it's the size of our entire object, then it's the render offset position, and here this will be 136. Then it is the size of our collision box, and then the offset of that collision box. So that's what my willow is gonna look like. And I think we already have it in the clipboard, so I'm just gonna paste it again. Then I have the lamp. And this lamp, the size is a bit smaller, so 128 by 128. Its render position is 64 and 92. The collision box size is 24 by 24, and the collision offset is 12 and 16. So I'm just going to copy this now and paste it down here, and I'm just going to call this lamp back, and this has the same exact values. And then I'm going to create another one. I'm going to call this bench. And this has the same size. Its render offset is a little different. It has 86 here, so 64 and 86. Its collision box size is 76 and 16. And its offset is 38 and 8. And here is the trash. So this is only 64 by 64. Its render position offset is 32 and 50. Its collision box size is 16 by 16, and collision box offset is 8 by 8. So now if we start up, go to the editor, I'm just going to load that in, go to the scenery tab. So here you can see everything that you have to choose from. So maybe, I don't know, you could add anything you'd like. Maybe there are some lamps here as well. Not sure if I like it though. But there you have it. Now you can add all of these things. So, yay, and here you can see the collision boxes, right? All right, you can see that's actually my old collision box. So here we go. I'm gonna have these collisions, and then I'm just gonna save. All right, we are getting quite far. I think that in the next video, actually, right, we had one more thing. We need to fix the render offset of our humanoids. So they are inside of the ring. So let's just do that real quick. I'm gonna head back to the humanoid and let's see, render offset. So we are saying size get height -12. Do we want that? Do I want to say, so what is the size height? That's 64 -12, 52. I'm gonna try 46 instead. Ooh, yay! So that worked out quite fine from the get-go. Alright, so that's great. I'm gonna stop here, and I think that in the next video we'll start looking at some pathfinding, because currently these NPCs are very, very dumb. They just try to move in the bird's direction of the position that they chose, and well, that results in them being stopped by everything ever. So as you can see, like this NPC has probably picked a position down here somewhere. This NPC has picked a position over here, and they're getting nowhere. So that will be the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Hej då!